Buckle up, because this is a rough one. This is Johann, a male veiled chameleon that was found in Waynesville, North Carolina, about 4 hours from us. Luckily, the Good Samaritan that found him called us, and one of our very kind Facebook followers helped with transportation. Unfortunately, his condition is extremely concerning. He's missing the upper portion of his casque and all the ridges that should run along his spine. He's got this really gnarly tail wound. One of his back limbs seems to have an old fracture, and there's swelling in most of his joints. In addition, he's extremely emaciated, and his sunken-in eyes are a clear sign of dehydration, which can quickly lead to kidney problems in chameleons. While looking in his mouth, Nicole found what she thought was debris. In addition to some grass, she took out that brown speck you can see on the paper towels, which, believe it or not, was a spider. I don't think we've ever found a spider during an intake exam before. Chameleons are very susceptible to burns from strong heat lamps, which would explain the missing spines and casque. While just barely touching this limb, a good amount of pus came out. And from looking at his other limbs, we could tell that this is most definitely gout. Gout is a very painful condition that can be a sign of poor kidney function. Unfortunately, it can be very hard to treat once it's advanced. This is the limb that appears to have an old fracture, which could be linked to some level of MBD. The tail wound is also very severe, and those last couple inches are definitely going to need to be amputated. Burns can also be very dehydrating, so we started off with fluids to help with the dehydration. Next, we did a small dose of oral calcium, and then some very diluted carnivore care. This is mostly water. He is so thin that we don't want to risk giving him something called refeeding syndrome. We applied SSD to any area that looked like it may have been burned. SSD cream is a very effective treatment for burns. Finally, we finished with some antibiotics to try and fight some of that infection we saw. We will definitely be taking Johann into our vet as soon as possible. We'll be calling them first thing Monday morning. This is what our typical rescue cage for chameleons looks like. But for chameleons in critical condition, we like to use what we call a hospital bin. This puts them at the perfect distance under their BR30 flood lamp and linear UVB bulb. We're not super optimistic about this guy's chances, but we're going to do our best and keep you updated. We were able to get Johann into our vets at Avian and Exotic Animal Care today, and as always, they did an incredible job. He received full blood work, a blood culture, radiographs, a fine needle aspirate of one of his joints, and they were actually able to amputate those last few inches of his tail. Considering his condition, they didn't want to risk a full procedure under general anesthesia, but luckily the tail was only hanging on by a little bit of tissue, so they were able to do a local block and remove it. In general, as a species, chameleons really don't like to be handled, so he was quite unhappy during his vet exam, but he's been through a lot and we don't blame him. The most promising news from today was his blood work. Miraculously, both his kidney and liver levels were within a normal range. His calcium levels were a bit low and he is anemic due to the inflammation and infection, so we'll be administering calcium and prescription medications to try to get those things under control. The radiograph showed several pathological fractures and curved bones due to metabolic bone disorder. In addition, they confirmed our belief that the tips of his spinal ridges and his casque had at some point been burned off. This was almost certainly due to a heat bulb that was too strong and directed. Here he is receiving a dose of amikacin. As you can see, chameleons really don't like getting injections. I mean, who does, honestly? We were really scared that we would be discussing euthanasia at the vet today. But his blood work is so promising that it's given us some hope. He's already making some great improvements. He's bright, alert, and responsive, and his eyes are already much less sunken in. But if you learn one thing from Johann's story, let it be this. Chameleons do not make good beginner pets. Their care is complex, and they're very fragile, so think twice before adding one to your family. Thank you so much to everyone who's already donated towards his care. Support is very appreciated, and if you'd like to help, the link is in our bio. Guess who's eating on his own? We decided to try offering Johannes some live insects, and he immediately went to town on them. He's still having a little trouble with balance, but he's doing really well. He's recovering faster than we ever expected, honestly. The fact that he's readily taking live insects is a great sign. You can see here that he got so excited he actually fell into the bowl a little bit. We just want to take this time to again thank everyone who made a donation towards Johannes's and Clea's care. It has been such a great help. And here he actually was able to catch 3 at one time. That's incredible. He's still not out of the woods, of course, but we've started to feel cautiously optimistic. We can't wait to see what the vets have to say at his next recheck. We finished up with giving him another dose of oral calcium, and he's really easy to give oral medications to. He gets so angry that he opens his mouth right up and boop, there it goes. That's it for today. We'll make sure to keep you all up to date. On Monday, Johannes went back into our vets at Avian and Exotic. During his first appointment, he actually tested negative for gout. So on Monday, we asked that they retest him using a fine needle aspirate. This time, they were able to see uric acid crystals, which confirms that Johannes has articular gout. In chameleons, early-stage gout can be curable, but once it's progressed, it's difficult to reverse the effects. I would say that Johannes has moderate gout. While he does have obvious swellings, he's still very active and eating well. Chameleons in a lot of pain typically stop eating, so that's a great sign. He's going to be on daily pain meds and allopurinol, which will hopefully help to dissolve the uric acid crystals. Gout is one of the more common health problems in chameleons and is typically caused by chronic dehydration or a diet too high in protein. Believe it or not, this handsome guy is Johannes the chameleon. It's been 2 months since his intake, and he's looking so much better. We were pretty concerned for his prognosis, particularly because gout can be very difficult to treat successfully in chameleons. However, after a course of allopurinol, the swelling in his limbs has gone down dramatically. We did take him back to Avian and Exotic Animal Care for a follow-up in early December. We were a little concerned about how slowly he was gaining weight, but our vets were actually pleased with his progress. He currently weighs 118 grams, which means he's gained 32 grams since his arrival here. He's graduated from his hospital bin to a larger screen cage with lots of enrichment. If you'd like to see updates like these more frequently, please consider supporting Be Wild by checking out our Patreon page. The link is in our bio. Watch till the end for the best after photos. This is Johannes, who's featured in one of our pinned videos. This was the first photo we received of him after he was found outside in western North Carolina. We've been rehabbing him over the last few months, and last weekend he finally went to his new forever family. He might not look his best in this clip because he really hates being picked up, but this was the day of his adoption and his new family was there to pick him up. He got super angry and dark. But here are the photos his new owner sent us after he'd settled in. Thank you to everyone who followed and supported Johannes's journey.